everyone. Hi, welcome or welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited about the beginning of this video because it was actually a recommendation or a nudge or a little, gentle encouragement from my husband to do this because I was going on and on about this book that is totally making me excited, which you probably already know because it's probably in the title of this video. And anyways, I wanted to get into it with you today, and I wanted to take you through my reading journey of Interview with a Vampire by Anne Rice. So if I'm gonna do this story time style, and we'll see where it lands me. So my mother, my very sweet mother, gave me this book a couple of years ago because she had heard Anne Rice in an interview talk about her writing, talk about, her career, and the way that Anne Rice talked about her writing and her writing style and her approach to writing made my mom think Shelley would really like that. So she gave it to me on, a holiday or a birthday or something, and it has sat and languished on my shelves ever since. So yeah, and I don't know why it took me so long to pick this up. I think part of it is that I was snubbing vampire fiction. I was like, I'm not a vampire fiction girly. I've never read Twilight, never read Dracula. I don't tend to gravitate towards vampire fiction. And so I was like, I don't know, I'll get to it eventually. And then guess what? I heard Jennifer Brooks from the channel Jennifer Brooks. I will leave her link down below. I heard her talk about this book or Anne Rice in general, and she was like, Anne Rice has got to be one of my favorite writers of all time. And that really kind of perked my ears up, and it made me feel a little bit warmer towards Anne Rice. And so I was like, I'm gonna file that away for later. Then at least I will enter this book with some, positive feelings towards it. And then my sweet friend Frasier was recently watching the brand new television series, Interview with a Vampire, and going on and on about how good it was. And I was like, is that show for me? And he was like, probably not, because there's a lot of gore and a lot of sensuality, but I would like to read the book. And I was like, well, I have the book, so let's just read it together. Okay, and so that's what brings us to this moment today. So I started this book, and immediately in the first 10 pages, I was like, this is incredible. This is sucking me in. I'm enjoying it. And based off the first 10 pages, which I will give you a small summary right now in case you want to know and then decide for yourself. But this is basically a reporter who's got a tape recorder. He's sitting down with an actual vampire and interviewing the vampire about his life. And later on, you find out that the vampire's name is Louise, who was sired, is that the right term? Who was turned into a vampire in the mid or late 1700s. And you are being taken through his life. Now, what I love about this so far, oh my gosh, I'm 95 pages in. This is like a 350 page book, and I am loving it. I am loving it. It is very, it has very sensual overtones, which is really kind of working for me because, vampires are like creatures of the night, and they have to bite your neck and to transform you or to get something from you. And so it's very it's got this erotic overtones, which is actually really, really working for me. And it's also doing this thing narrative style wise. So that's kind of the tone of it. It's dark. It's sexy. I feel weird saying that on my channel. It's very character driven, and you are being taken through this vampire's life. Now, what I think is really brilliant about the book so far is that it hasn't broken the narrative structure of the interview. And so you have this reporter who sometimes interrupts the vampire, who sometimes, makes the vampire, or sort of diverts the vampire's attention as he's going down a tangent. There are questions. So I feel like the reporter is representative of the reader who's like, well, what about this? And what about this? And what about crosses? Do those hurt you? And what about, you know, this and this and this? And, you know, and then when there's something shocking, he'll be like, well, what about that? You know? And so I feel like it's really working because you have these moments where the reporter will interject and ask a question, which is just great. And also, you're very aware that this is a story told from the perspective of somebody who has an opinion and ideas about the world. That, you know, it's told with a slant. It's told from the point of view of somebody who clearly has their own point of view and take on what's going on. And so when he doesn't like somebody, he goes out and says it. And then he also does this thing, so Louise, our main vampire who's being interviewed, does this thing where he like goes into his memory and he's like, I don't know if I'm remembering this right, or I'm not sure. And those moments of, I think it's called verisimilitude, tell me if I'm wrong, but the discrepancy of being unsure of what actually happened versus what you're telling happened, and being aware of that, and knowing that memory is faulty, and not exactly being certain of the order of events or the way that something exactly went down. There's something about that is making the story like more believable. Vampire stories being believable. Who thought on my channel? But it makes it more like it's helping me buy into the story, because it's like, oh, he knows that he is a faulty narrator of his own life. And so that seems like a very human thing. That seems like a very relatable thing. And so it's like working even more for me. So anyway, so there was that. And then here's my final thing for this clip. I'm sure I will, my plan is to check in 2 more times before I finish this, but who knows, maybe I'll just finish the book today and I will just be like, I just blew right through it. Oh no, I have a visitor. This book is like immediately sucking me in. I am so here for it. I love it so much. At least in the first 95 pages, it's so good. It's so enjoyable. It's like tickling every reader's itch that I have. I love it so much. I mean, I'm just like swept away by it. But here's the deal. So I found out Anne Rice has written 13 of these books. It's part of the Vampire Chronicles. This first one was published in 1976. The next one was published, I think, in 1984 or 85. And there are 13 books in the series. So here's my question for you all. Have you read them all? Have you read the first one? If you've read some of them, at what point does the series start to drop off? I would like to know, because there's this part of me that just wants to go out and buy the entire series, but I'm not really trying to inundate myself with new books right now. So I'm practicing restraint. Have you read this series? I want to, give me the tea. Give me, without spoiling it, give me the tea about the series. Like, at what point is it good until, maybe at what point did you read and then decide that, I kind of got tired of it. I'm not much of a series reader. 2 books is like good for me in a series. If it's a 3-book series, then I'll usually kind of finish it out. But I just let me know. I want to know. Give me all the information. How did I not know about this? This is so good. I feel bad that I haven't read this sooner, and now I want to know all of it. I want to know all of the juicy details about Interview with a Vampire. No pun intended. Okay, so that's it for me for right now. I'm sure I'll check in later, and yeah. See you later. So a lot has gone down between me and Anne Rice since last we spoke. I have finished this, and I will get into my final thoughts and all of that. But here's what happened. I was going on and on about how much I was enjoying Interview with a Vampire, that it has just the right amount of spooky vibes, gothic vibes. The setting was done so well. It had beautiful, like, erotic vibes that kind of kept you sort of interested and engaged. There was a great character who was all about, I think I called him Louis, but it's Louis. Louis is very, like, you know, into what it means to be a vampire and the consequences and the morality of it all. And, you know, it's set in the South, in New Orleans for the most part in the beginning. And so it has those vibes to it. And I was going on and on about this with my husband, and so he actually downloaded it on his Kindle and started reading it. And then do y'all know what happened? How dare he? How dare he? He actually finished before me. He read it in 2 days. He really enjoyed it. He was like all sucked in, even more than me, and he just got it done. I was like, what in the world? Yeah, he really enjoyed it. He was like, this is good, guilty pleasure kind of books. But I understood what he meant. But yeah, he was definitely really enjoying the vibes that Anne Rice was giving off, and he likes vampire stuff. Like, we bonded over Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It's part of our relationship. It's part of the canon of our relationship. But I was like, how in the world did you do that? You started after me and you finished before me. I was like, the man can focus. I was, what in the world? So anyways, so here's how it all kind of ended for me. I'm not going to spoil the ending or anything. I thought this was so well done. There were parts where she would start to lose me. Like, it would start to kind of drone on a tiny bit, like drag a tiny bit, and then something would happen and it would get me re-engaged and it would get me reinvigorated about the story and what was happening, and I would be like sucked in, and it would do that over and over again. So it had this really like lovely cadence in which, you know, I would sort of start to feel like I was losing a tiny bit of interest, and then all of a sudden it would suck me back in. And that was a wonderful feeling for a story like this. I also was quite invested in the main character, and I was like, it's so good. It's so good. She's able to keep up the idea that Louis is actually being interviewed as a vampire throughout the whole thing, and it feels as if he's telling his story, which is also, you know, slanted and not unbiased. There are characters that he hates, there are characters that he loves, and it really tells you his whole story up until the present day, which is really cool. The one thing that I didn't love was that ostensibly hundreds of years pass as he's relaying his story. And there are some indicators that time has passed in technology and so on. But there's a part of me that really wanted to see it be addressed a bit more and it to be a little more blatant. Like, what was it like when television became accessible to vampires? Did that change things? You know, that kind of thing, which I didn't see. And so it's like Anne Rice told me that a lot of time passed, but she didn't show me that a lot of time passed. And so I thought that was really interesting, and one of the critiques that I actually have about the book. Now, here's the deal. This is such a fun read. This is like brain candy to the max, like sugar straight into my veins. Like, everything about it was so much fun. And I feel like, knows what she's doing in that she's not taking herself too seriously. There's a little bit of philosophy. There's a lot about angsty relationships. There is, she's obviously playing with the trope of vampires. And there are 13 more books, which I think I mentioned in my earlier, 13 more of these. There are 13 more of these. And so I am definitely interested in reading more of what this world has to offer. This was just so much fun, and there is a part of me that now wants to read Dracula because the vampire thing is just great. Like, it's great. It's fun. It's a little spooky, but not too spooky. It's got this, like, it's rooted in gothicness. It's just a whole heck of a lot of fun. But yeah, I wanted to wrap up and tell you that this was a really successful book for me, and it was even more successful for my husband. I guess I'm doing my job as like being an influencer, which feels really silly to say, but I influenced him to read it, and he loved it so much that he finished it way before me. So yeah, but yeah, anyhow, that's it from me. If you couldn't tell, I had a great time with this book, and if you ever have the opportunity to pick it up and you like what I'm saying about it, then I would very much encourage you to do so. It's great. It's just, so great. Okay, that's it for me. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you all in my next one. Bye, guys.